Welcome to Erie Trail, where forgotten roads, haunted silence, and long shadows tell stories no one else dares to remember. If you're drawn to the strange, the lost, and the unsettling, you're in the right place. Like the video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories that don't just scare, they stay with you. The first time Roy Dobbins noticed the night window at the old KFC off Highway 287, it was just past 11:30 p.m., mid-July, and hot as Satan's armpit outside. He was a lanky man in his early 40s with skin that looked permanently sun-seared, the color of dried mesquite bark, and sweat stains under his arms that never fully dried. He drove an '03 Dodge Ram with a cracked windshield and a cooler full of Lone Star Light rattling in the back seat. That night, he'd been hauling fence posts out to a cattle lot near Electra when the craving for something greasy and oversalted hit him like a freight train. KFC was the only thing open past 10 for miles. The parking lot was empty, mostly. One busted-down Saturn sat under a flickering streetlight, and the building itself looked like it had been dunked in fryer grease around 1998 and never cleaned since. Flies swarmed under the eaves. The lights inside were dimmed to a gloomy yellow, and when he pulled up to the drive-thru speaker, there was nothing but static for a full 30 seconds. Then a voice crackled through, low and breathy. "We're open. Order?" He blinked. The speaker was old, sure, but something about the way that voice whispered through the static made the hairs on his neck stand up. He cleared his throat and asked for a 5-piece combo with mashed potatoes and a Dr. Pepper. The voice didn't respond right away. "Come to the window." Roy rolled forward. There wasn't anybody visible inside, no teenager with pimples and a headset, no manager with a limp and a scowl. Just flickering light and the slow, greasy rotation of the ceiling fan above the counter. Then the window on the far right, where there used to be an employee door, slid open with a long, rattling screech. Not the usual window, not the pay window. This one was lower, and the frame around it was dented and rusted, as though it hadn't been opened in years. He leaned out his window, confused. Wrong window? A pale hand reached through the opening. The fingers were long and damp-looking, like wet paper, and in its grasp was a grease-stained paper bag. Roy stared at the hand, then at the empty interior beyond it. He didn't see anyone behind the glass. No torso, no shoulder, just the arm, extending out into the night like it was built into the wall. His gut told him to back up and haul ass. But the smell of chicken hit him hard-hot, crispy, just the way it always used to smell back when his daddy took him for a bucket after rodeo practice. That nostalgia made him stupid. He took the bag. The hand snapped back like a rubber band. The night window slammed shut. He sat there for a few seconds, heart hammering harder than it should have been. Then he laughed. Just nerves, he told himself. The graveyard shift probably ran the place differently, maybe a new trainee fucking around. He shook his head, threw the truck in gear, and drove off, the bag of food steaming up his cab with its oily perfume. He didn't notice, not right away, that the chicken inside wasn't right. The breading was off, greasy but not crunchy, pale, gray in spots like old fish batter. He took one bite before gagging. The meat inside was cold, raw near the bone, and when he spat it out, something long and black slithered onto the floor mat and vanished under the seat. Roy swerved, nearly hitting a roadside reflector. He pulled over, grabbed a flashlight from the glove box, and scanned the floorboard. Nothing, no bug, no snake, just the chicken bag, slowly leaking a pinkish fluid that smelled like copper and mold. He tossed the whole thing out the window and didn't look back. Next morning, he called the KFC, got some kid on the line who sounded stoned out of his gourd. Roy asked if they had some sort of special window they used late at night. "Night window?" the kid said, confused. "We close the drive-thru at 11, sir." "No, you don't. I was there last night at 11:30. Got food from some weird dam. Side window. A pause. Then, sir, I'm the night manager. I was here last night, and we were definitely closed by 11. I locked the drive-thru gate myself. Roy hung up. He didn't eat fast food again for a week. Told himself he was imagining things, had heat stroke or a bad beer. He even went back the next Friday, just to prove himself wrong. He arrived at the KFC at 11:25. The drive-thru speaker didn't come on when he pulled up. The menu board was unlit, but the same faint light glowed from the side of the building, and again that strange window slid open with a screech. This time, no voice spoke. No hand reached out. There was just the window, gaping wide like a mouth. Waiting for something to crawl inside. He waited. Nothing. Then he heard something inside the building. Wet footsteps on linoleum, slow, deliberate, followed by a sound like slurping, like something eating. He reversed out of the drive-thru and took off. That night, he dreamed of the window. In the dream, he stood at it, staring in. Beyond it was a kitchen, yes, but not a normal one. The fryers bubbled with black tar. The heat lamps hummed with flies trapped beneath the glass, twitching. And something stood behind the counter, tall, pale, eyes bulging from a slack face that had no lips, just teeth. Too many teeth. It wore a KFC uniform that hung off it like a skin suit. He woke soaked in sweat, the taste of mold and blood in his throat. Over the next few weeks, things started happening around town. First, a woman from Burkburnett vanished on her way back from the gas station next door to that KFC. Her car was found. Door open, engine running. A sack of chicken on the passenger seat that nobody would touch. It stank like sour meat and ammonia. Then, a homeless man was found behind the KFC dumpster, eyes gouged out, his stomach torn open. The sheriff blamed wild dogs. Roy knew better. He started watching the place. Sitting across the highway in the parking lot of the closed-down feed store, binoculars in hand, lights off. And sure enough, every few nights, that night window would open. No employees ever entered or exited. The back door stayed locked with a chain. But the window opened and always someone would come. Not the same person twice. Different vehicles. Different hours. Sometimes one a night. Sometimes two, and they never left. Their cars would sit there, lights on, engine running. Roy would sit until sunrise, watching. When the sun hit the lot, the cars would be gone. He never saw them leave. He tried calling the sheriff. Left anonymous tips. Nothing came of it. Then, one Tuesday night in August, he watched a silver Buick roll into the drive-thru just after midnight. The window opened. A woman leaned out and took something from a hand Roy couldn't see. Her face went slack. She just froze, sitting there. And then, slowly, she climbed out of the car and walked to the window. Roy dropped the binoculars. She didn't knock, didn't speak. She just climbed through, folded herself up like a spider, arms bending wrong, legs twitching, and slid through that narrow frame. One shoe fell off and hit the pavement. Then the window slammed shut. Roy didn't go home. He didn't sleep. He parked 2 blocks away, eyes bloodshot, twitching at every movement. His phone rang once, no caller ID, and when he answered, he heard the whispery voice from the speaker. "We're open? Order?" He smashed the phone against the dash until it cracked. By the time the county sheriff finally investigated the KFC after 3 employees stopped showing up for work, after a family of 4 went missing with a receipt in their truck from a 12-piece bucket, there was nothing inside. No fryer, no tables, no counters. Just an empty shell of a building, dark as a tomb, and the window still open, waiting. Roy Dobbins' story didn't make it into the papers, but folks around Wichita Falls talked. They said he went off the deep end, quit his job, sold his trailer, started living in a beat-up RV out past Lake Arrowhead, near a stretch of woods no one liked to walk after dark. The old KFC on Highway 287 was bulldozed in late September. A crew brought in from Amarillo that worked daylight only. The company didn't explain why. One day it was there empty, rotting, leaning like a drunk, and the next, gone. Concrete. Foundation scraped bare like a peeled scab. Roy knew better than to relax. He started drinking more. Chain-smoking Camels until his fingers turned yellow. He kept notebooks, sketches of the window, diagrams of the building as it had been, names of the missing. One page he wrote over and over, "It opens without hinges. It opens without hands." There were pages he tore out, burned in a coffee can by the lake, sobbing into his shirt collar. He knew, deep down, that the thing at the window wasn't gone, just moved. It began again in November. The Sonic out near Henrietta got a new night shift employee, someone no one had seen hired. He worked the later shifts, never seen during daylight. Teenagers whispered that if you stayed too long near stall number 13, your music would cut out and you'd hear whispering through your speakers, even if the car was off. Then the night clerk at the Shell station off 287 disappeared mid-shift. Customers said the door was open, lights on, register untouched, but there was a smell like wet fur and hot grease and a trail of something, thick and black, leading into the walk-in freezer. They found the man's shoes in there. Nothing else. Roy heard about these things, tracked them like a hunter. He pinned maps to the inside of his RV, red strings looping through dates and roads. The pattern wasn't random. The thing was moving, following the highway. Every few weeks, another small-town joint would go quiet at night. Employees gone. Customers never seen again. And always a witness would mention a window, low to the ground, slightly too small. Always where it hadn't been before. By February, Roy stopped trying to warn people. They didn't listen. Even when he shoved photos into their hands, grainy prints of empty cars with doors wide open and headlights still on, they looked at him like a drunk trying to sell religion. So he changed tactics. He decided to find it. He stocked the RV with canned food, guns, talismans, a stack of Bibles, and a silver crucifix he'd gotten from an old Mexican woman in Vernon, who said it had belonged to a curandero who died during a mass disappearance back in the 80s. He drove up and down the back roads of North Texas for weeks, living on energy drinks and bad gas station burritos, watching every fast food joint and all-night diner like a hawk. He finally saw it again in Bowie. It was an old Dairy Queen on the edge of town. Hadn't been open in over a year. Boarded up, tags sprayed all over the sign, but the parking lot lights were on one night. Roy saw it through the trees as he was driving north. A flickering glow, just enough to catch the eye. He parked down the road and crept through the scrub grass with a pair of night vision binoculars. And there it was. The night window. Same shape, same rusted frame, sitting where the side door should have been, glowing faintly from inside. And someone was at it. Roy watched a man, maybe mid-30s, tall, wearing an untucked plaid shirt, walk up from the drive-thru lane. He wasn't in a car, just walking like in a dream. Roy wanted to shout, but his voice died in his throat. The window opened. Roy could see nothing inside, just the black yawning space. But the man leaned in, listened. Then, without hesitation, he reached into his own chest, just shoved his hand beneath his shirt into the skin like it was soft clay, and pulled. Roy couldn't see what came out, but it glowed blue, faint like a gas flame. The man handed it to the thing behind the glass, and the window closed. The man dropped to the ground like a puppet with its strings cut. Roy ran then, but by the time he reached the body, it was already decaying. Flies poured from its mouth. The next day, the Dairy Queen was boarded up again. Power cut. No trace of the man. The only thing left behind was a handprint on the concrete black. Wet, too long. That was when Roy knew. The window wasn't a place, it was a door. A moving, thinking, hungry door. And it didn't need a building. It just needed a crack in the tin. World wide enough to slip through. He stopped chasing it. He waited. April 3rd, around 2 a.m. He woke to the sound of metal scraping on metal. He knew that sound. Had heard it in dreams and memories, in nightmares that hadn't faded in months. He rose from the camper floor, shotgun in hand, heart pounding. There it was, Dot, at the edge of the trees. Not part of any structure, not even attached to a wall. Just hovering. A window in the air, maybe 4 feet tall, framed in rust, lit by a low yellow glow. The ground beneath it was black and warped, like it had been burned. The window slid open, and something spoke. Not with words, not exactly. It showed things. His mother, sitting in her old recliner, smiling. His brother, dead in Iraq, saluting him from a roadside ditch. His high school girlfriend, laughing as she climbed into his truck. Then, himself. Younger, unburdened, happy. The voice whispered through it all. We're open. Order. He raised the shotgun, barrel trembling. The air around the window shimmered, oily and thick. The forest had gone silent. Not even the wind moved. No frogs, no crickets. Not even the buzz of mosquitoes. Roy didn't shoot. Instead, he walked forward, put the barrel of the gun against the glow. The window pulsed. Like it was breathing. He didn't pull the trigger. He just stood there, staring into that impossible square, tears rolling down his cheeks, hands shaking, and the window waited. At some point, maybe minutes, maybe hours, it closed. Roy dropped. To his knees. The grass around him was gone. His boots smoked. The RV wouldn't start the next morning. His hair had gone completely white. The window hasn't come back since, but sometimes, if you drive those old highways late at night, especially around Wichita Falls, Bowie, Vernon, you might see a strange light in the woods, or a dark shape, where no shape should be. Sometimes you might hear a voice from an empty speaker. Box. Sometimes a window appears where it shouldn't, and it opens. They found the boys' truck abandoned behind the old Whataburger off FM 174, just outside Jacksboro. It was a white Chevy Silverado, still running, headlights boring into the back wall of the building like it had something to say. Driver's side door open. Radio playing static. Windshield smeared with something thick and black, as if a hand too big, too many fingers had dragged itself across the glass. The boy, Levi Reeves, had just turned 19. Worked construction with his uncle during the day, played bass in a metal band at night. Good kid, folks said. Bit of a stoner, sure, but harmless. Loved his dog more than most people. That night, he'd told friends he was going to grab something greasy before heading home. He never came back. No one could figure how he'd gotten inside the Whataburger, since the building had been closed for over a year, torn up during the spring tornado, left half skeletonized and filled with raccoons and mold. The door was locked from the outside with a rusted padlock. The inside was gutted, floor peeled up, roof half caved in, equipment covered in a fine powder of rat droppings. And ceiling rot. No lights. No power. But the weird thing, the part that stuck in the deputies' minds, even if they didn't talk about it, was the window. Not the drive-thru window. That one was shattered, frame bent like a drunk had backed into it. No, this window was new. Or rather, it shouldn't have been there at all. It was on the north side of the building, where the manager's office had been. A narrow horizontal slit of a window, waist-high, just wide enough to lean through. No latch, no signage. And when the sun set and shadows grew long, that window seemed deeper than it ought to be. Deputy Cole was the first one to feel it. He stood in front of it after sunset, hands on his hips, chewing the same wad of tobacco he'd had in since noon. The wind had died. Air felt close, thick. The smell from the building was foul mildew, piss, burned plastic, but something beneath that, too. Something warm. Coppery. He leaned in, not close, just enough to peer inside, and the window blinked. Not a trick of the light. Not a raccoon. The window itself blinked. The black behind the glass constricted for a moment like a pupil. Cole staggered back, said nothing to anyone. He wouldn't return the next day. He left town, no warning. Sold his house in Bryson and moved to Missouri. Refuses to speak of it to this day. But something had shifted. The window didn't wait anymore. It began appearing. 2 weeks after Levi went missing. The night window showed up at a truck stop outside Decatur. Not attached to any building. Just there, a square of soft yellow light hovering 4 feet off the ground in the diesel lot between two parked semis. A driver named Ortiz said he saw a man talking to it. Older guy, barefoot, wearing nothing but boxer shorts, hair matted, like he'd come crawling out of a hole. The man whispered something, reached forward, and handed the window a crumpled photograph. Then he turned and walked straight into traffic. When they recovered the body, the photograph was still stuck to his hand. Water damaged, blurry. A child, maybe 5, holding a KFC balloon. Ortiz tried to find the window again. He couldn't. It was gone. Roy Dobbins had been tracking the thing for almost a year now. He lived like a ghost off the grid, sleeping in rest stops and creek beds, carrying a duffel bag full of notes and tape recorders. His hair was thin, eyes sunken, skin pale and peeling. He looked like a man who'd crawled up from a shallow grave and decided to keep walking. He heard about the Whataburger window through an old CB channel. Truckers whispering about the thing with a yellow square that moves when you ain't looking. Roy drove there 2 nights later, flashlight in hand, shotgun across his lap. He arrived just past 1 o'clock. It was waiting for him. Same window, same shape, rusted frame and faint light spilling out like butter gone rancid. The building around it was silent, dark, but the window glowed like something was cooking on the other side. Roy walked up, slowed. The air around it warped. He could feel it in his fillings, the way old TVs used to buzz before turning on. His eyes watered. His teeth ached. He raised the recorder. This is Roy Dobbins. 3rd documented appearance of the night window. No structure visible behind it. Location: Jacksboro, Texas. Time: 1:11 a.m. He paused, listened. A voice drifted from the window. Not loud. Not even words at first. Just breathing. Wet and slow. Then, "We're open. Place your order." He stepped closer. There was no glass. Just heat. Heat and a deep hum like something enormous shifting just out of sight. Roy's stomach twisted. His bowels cramped. The smell was worse this time, chemical sweet, like antifreeze and meat left too long in the sun. "I didn't come to order," he said, voice cracking. "I came to ask what you are." Silence. Then, laughter. It started small, a soft wheezing chuckle, but grew louder, layered. Dozens of voices, men and women and children, all laughing in unison. It rose in pitch, vibrating through Roy's bones, until he staggered backward, hands clapped over his ears. The window pulsed. Something came through. Not a hand this time. A shape, long, wet, eel-like, with pale flesh stretched thin over bone. It slid onto the concrete, slapping weightly, dragging itself in loops. Roy screamed and fired the shotgun once, twice. Both blasts passed through the creature like smoke. The shape stopped, twitched, then turned its head, a lump with no face. Just a single black eye like a hole in space, and looked at him. Roy ran. He drove until sunrise, didn't stop until he hit Abilene, where he spent the next 48 hours in a motel bathroom shaking and vomiting blood. When he finally emerged, he burned all the tapes, all but one. That one he mailed to a post office box in Fort Worth with a note: "If the window shows up here, seal the city." No one knows what became of him, but the window kept moving. In April, it was seen in Mineral Wells in the middle of an abandoned amusement park. In May, it showed up behind a Dairy Queen in Stephenville. Someone tried to touch it. They turned inside out. In June, it hovered over Possum Kingdom Lake for 3 nights straight, and then it vanished. Folks have stopped looking for it. But sometimes, driving late on a Texas highway, your radio might cut to static. Your headlights might flicker. Your GPS might reroute you to nowhere. And when you stop, you might see a faint yellow light glowing just off the road. A window, no wall, no door. Just the frame. Open. Waiting. We're open. Place your order.